franktalks.com.
Check out the Frank Talks Relationship column currently running in the Suburban Newspaper online magazine. To read more, please visit www.thesuburban.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
Relationships, sex, passion with Dr. Laurie Betito. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
10:06. Minus 12 right now in downtown Montreal with the wind. It's Kelly Alexander in for Dr. Laurie, who has been on a whirlwind book tour, and she will be back on Passion tomorrow night. So for tonight, Kelly Alexander with you. Thank you so much for joining us on Trouble Tuesday. And I am joined right now by a regular guest on Passion, Frank Kermit, a relationship and dating coach, relationship columnist for the Suburban Newspaper online magazine. And you can check him out on his website, franktalks.com. Frank, welcome back to CJAD and Passion.
Thank you, Kelly. Always a pleasure.
Awesome.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. So we've got a lot going on tonight. There's so many email questions you've already got in on Facebook and email, and I'm assuming other forms of social media. I know, though, right off the top, though, you wanted to speak about an event that's coming up for you in June, which makes me think it's going to be warm then. So I hope so.
Oh, it's going to be warm, and it's going to be a great event. Happens Sunday, June 28th, last Sunday in June. I'm going to be giving a brunch lecture on the topic of casual sex between friends.
Okay.
So anybody who's interested in experimenting with casual sex between friends, they're thinking about setting up some kind of friends with benefits. Mm-hmm. Well, there are rules to making that work so that you don't lose the friendship and it doesn't destroy your opportunities to find an actual serious relationship. And I'm going to give a really great lecture on that. Visit my website, franktalks.com. You're going to see a wonderful banner on the homepage. You can click on that and buy tickets there.
Okay, excellent. And again, that's coming up June 28th. So let's delve into some questions right off the hop, because I know you have a bunch of them. So we'll start off with Rachel. She says, oh, and by the way, if you have questions for Frank, we'd love for you to join us, 514-790-0800. And of course, by text, 514-800. Please put your first name in the text. We would appreciate that. So as mentioned, this is Rachel. And she says, I was asked out by a married man that I know. He's a great guy. And I was going to say no at first, but he says that he and his wife have an open relationship marriage. I have never dated a man in an open relationship. Can it actually work? Frank?
Can work. It's not always easy. You also have to make sure that he isn't actually lying to you and cheating on his wife. Mm-hmm. Best way to figure that out, ask if you can talk to the wife.
Right.
For couples that are in very legitimate open relationships, usually it's a requirement that you would meet the spouse before any activity occurs.
Okay.
So sometimes you may go on a first date, but before the second date, before the third date, before any continuous sexual activity goes on, you would have to meet the spouse. Not all relationships, not all open relationships operate that way. Mm-hmm. Some open relationships are very much, I don't really want to know, do what you got to do, I'll do what I have to do. But generally speaking, if you are going to date someone in an open relationship, yes, it can work, but manage your expectations. Because their expectations as an already established couple, with you being a third party entering this, are very different than the expectations that this was Rachel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be very different than the expectations that Rachel may have in dating this man.
What's your thoughts, Frank, on let's say someone like Rachel, who potentially has never had this experience before, which she has basically said. Is this something that you really want to get into? You know what I mean? Like, do you have to ask those questions to yourself first before you would explore this new adventure potentially of being involved with someone who's in an open relationship? Because as you mentioned, even though it's an open relationship, it's a committed open relationship, and they would probably choose their partner first, correct?
Generally speaking, you would have a primary partner. In this case, the guy's wife is probably the primary partner. I'm assuming that's the way it's going to follow that kind of norm. Mm-hmm. Rachel, what are your expectations?
Right.
Okay. Are your expectations that you're going to get serious with him, have children with him? We don't know if he has children already with his wife, his primary partner. It might be that he is allowed to date other people, but he's not allowed to have children with other people. And if her plan includes getting serious with someone, having kids, maybe they're looking for a third live-in partner. That would be open to him having children with her. She doesn't know any of this information yet. All she knows is that it's an open marriage. It just means that there's a lot of negotiation that's going to go into it. Should she get involved in it? It depends. Is she willing to share?
Okay.
And if she's a jealous person by nature, maybe this would be a good experience dating-wise for her. Maybe to get into the idea of, well, I am going to date somebody, but I have to understand that I'm going to manage my own jealousy through this. It could be a learning experience for her. As it is, she's already said that he's a great guy.
Right.
So she already likes him as a person. So the question now is, what kind of a relationship is he looking for? Rachel, just ask him for what his expectations are and speak to his wife as well. Maybe the three of you should just all get together for dinner.
I would love to be sitting at that dinner table. That would be an interesting conversation. That is for sure.
It would be, but I would rather see things like that, which is open and honest, than to have people going around having affairs.
But what are the chances of that, Frank? That's my question. Like, I mean, I had a little giggle there with regards to them all sitting down for dinner. I do think that would be the smart thing if you are getting involved in a situation like this. But what are the chances that that's going to happen? You know what I mean?
I got to tell you something. In my experience, both personally, way back in the day, as well as a professional coaching couples who are transitioning into open relationships or singles dating like this, it is disappointing for me to say this.
Yeah.
More people would rather be the mistress than the known secondary partner.
That's what I thought. It's like a soap opera, right?
It is, and which is really sad because the one who says, no, I want to be the mistress, I don't want to meet your partner, I don't want this to be... They actually question the morality of the couple in the open and honest marriage.
Wow.
Whereas they say, but no, what I'm doing is okay. Yeah, but what you're doing is lying and being deceitful. And they don't see that as immoral, but, a couple that's actually communicating about this, well, that's just wrong. And that happens more often than finding people who are open-minded enough and honest. So for that reason, I am disappointed in that. I think that society is heading towards that point. The three-parent family, where all three parents are co-parenting together and working together. I really believe that that's going to happen more and more in the future. It already happens now. You already have a lot of couples looking for that third partner to join them and trying to find a way to work that out. Not an easy process, but the alternative is what? People start cheating on one another, and then what? Going through divorce, going through fights, going through all betrayal of trust. That's a lot worse than sitting down with your partner and saying, okay, what can we work out?
514-790-0800 if you have questions for Frank, and of course by text 514-800. We have another question that's come in from Anonymous. How do you manage special days, for example, like your birthday, if you are dating numerous people? How do you decide who you should be with on that day? That's a lot. Boy, that's a lot. That's a lot to handle.
That's a lot to handle. I remember one person who I was studying under, and he says, on special days, just make sure you're out of town.
That's a good answer.
Just be out of town so you don't have to deal with it. But generally speaking, there usually is one partner that for whatever reason has the most potential to end up in a serious relationship with. So if you have to choose somebody, that would be the person. And one of the questions I usually give people to figure out this answer, who would you take to a family function?
Right.
Who's the one that you would take to the family function? Because those type of elements, the kind of lifestyle a person wants long-term and who can best support that lifestyle, those play a big part in the decision-making process of who you're going to choose to be with long-term. It's not who turns you on the most.
Right.
It's the person who can best support your lifestyle. So who would you want to bring to family functions? And whoever that one is, that's probably the one who's going to spend the main holiday with you. Now, if you're really in a position where you're dating more than one person, you might be dating two people, you might be dating three, your birthday comes up and so on, there's nothing precluding you from inviting everybody to the same event, with the understanding you're going to let them know. And again, if you're dating multiple people, everyone should at least know that you're not exclusive.
Right.
And it's a good test to say, look, I'm inviting you, but you should know there's going to be other people there who I'm seeing. Can you handle it?
Right.
And sometimes it turns into a disaster with people getting jealous and trying to fight for your attention. And sometimes you really see who the type of person is that can handle themselves in a, what could be a challenging situation. And, the cream always rises to the top.
Right.
Seeing somebody in that situation and seeing that they can handle themselves and not let their jealousy get to them and behave like a mature adult who knew the parameters going in and is able to manage it, that's the star. That's the one who you want to co-parent your future children with.
Much more coming up with relationship coach Frank Kermit. My name is Kelly Alexander, sitting in for Dr. Laurie on Passion. Right now, we're going to head out to the roads.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on Passion. Joined tonight on Trouble Tuesday with Frank Kermit, a relationship and dating coach, a relationship columnist for the Suburban Newspaper online magazine, and again, his website, franktalks.com. Frank, we've actually been getting some texts in over the break to 514-0800. And the first one is, we were talking earlier about Rachel and her question about getting involved with a married man in an open relationship. So we had a texter. To me, this is basically polygamy. And last I checked, that's illegal.
Marriage between the three individuals, meaning one person is married to two individuals. But what we currently have in this country is that we have people who start a family, separate and divorce, start another family, separate and divorce, and that is seen as okay. But if you have everybody saying, well, no, we're going to share partners and we all want to have kids with the same person and be one large family, then it becomes wrong. Meanwhile, the system of separation, divorce, start a new family, separation, divorce, start a new family, and the kids all getting neglected, somehow that's more righteous and more moral. So is it polygamy? Only if there's a legal marriage involved in some facet.
Okay.
But
third party to have anything to do with the kids? Because I sure wouldn't. Like, if you have an open relationship, but you have a child or children with that person, you're the parents. And if you're out doing whatever you need to do outside of that, to me, that's extracurricular activities of an adult nature. I don't know that you'd want these third parties involved with the children that you have with your technical married partner.
in the same way that when single parents date, who they date doesn't necessarily play an active role in their children's lives just because they're dating.
Right.
So when a couple in an open relationship have children and they're both allowed to date other people, just because they're dating other people doesn't mean those other people automatically get a say or take on a parenting
Or even
role.
meet the children,
Or even
right?
exactly the same way that's for single parents. The new person they're dating may never meet the children unless the couple is reaching a point of engagement or saying, well, look, we're going to get really serious. We're going to blend our families. So you don't assume that just because they're dating, they're going to have an active role because it's a quote unquote open relationship. No, it's an open relationship, but there are still parameters. You'd be surprised that the majority of couples in open relationships do not involve their lovers in their children's lives. Okay, the majority simply do not.
Which, what do you think? I think that's probably the safe bet.
I think it's a smart move. You put the kid's needs ahead of your own.
Because the kid would get confused, I would think.
Well, again, let's look at the example of the single parent. How many times, and I don't know if you've run into this, but I run into this a lot, where it's a single parent, and as soon as they start dating somebody new, they quickly introduce this new person into a children's life. Oh, but that relationship only lasted 4 months. Well, you know what? These kids are getting attached.
Yeah.
To every new boyfriend and girlfriend you're bringing home. Don't bring the new partner home unless you are absolutely sure that that new partner is going to want to be in your kid's future. It's irresponsible.
Yeah.
Okay? It's irresponsible.
I would agree with that. Another text coming in at 514-800. I know 2 lesbians who have 2 boys and want me to be a quote-unquote father figure for the boys. My fear is if I get attached to the boys and then the women dump me, should I go for it, even if I'm having doubts? Now, I don't think, from what I gather from this text, that there's any sort of sexual relationship going on. It's just, obviously, it sounds like a friend of these this lesbian couple, and they want a father figure. Should he get involved, Frank?
Well, I guess, first of all, does he have children of his own that he would be taking time away from? That would be the first question I have, because we don't know.
We don't know, yeah.
Is it a matter that he has older children now, he has experience in this, and that's why they're coming to him and saying, listen, can you... I look at this as an extension of the Big Brother, Big Sister program.
Okay.
Okay, look, sometimes children need guidance. They need that friend. They need that extra support that they simply can't get at home. It's not necessarily based on gender. However, there may be certain experiences that these moms who really, obviously, they care about their sons.
Yep.
Okay. No mom who would consider this is thinking negative here. They both really want what's best for their boys, and they're saying, hey, maybe having a male role model might be a good influence on them. They obviously think highly of him.
Obviously, yeah.
Okay. First question: does he have children of his own?
He's just texted in, I'm single, no kids.
Okay, so my concern is that you're going to involve yourself so much in the lives of these young boys at the expense of you moving on and having a family of your own.
So he has to be able to answer the question, can I have a separate myself from this? Like, do it in good faith, but be able to have my own life, right?
Exactly. Look, dude, you're not stepping in to be their father.
Right.
Be clear about this. You're stepping in to be a big brother.
Oh, no sex with the women, he says.
Okay. So, dude, you step in to be a big brother.
Yep.
Be a guide. Take them out once in a while and
movies, ballpark, whatever.
Be there so that if they have questions that they feel more comfortable asking you about, that they can go ahead and do that. Be a big brother. But understand something. Don't have any expectation that this is going to go on forever.
Right.
It's a time-limited thing, just like the big brother relationship is a time-limited thing. In fact, I'm going to recommend to this guy, contact your local big brothers and big sister organization. Find out what their rules are. Find out what their parameters are.
Okay.
It'll give you a guide to follow. You are going to get attached, dude.
I have a question, Frank, about this. What happens if, he becomes such good buddies with the boys? I don't know how old they are, but like, let's say the two moms get jealous. And then they cut it off. Like, what do you do then? You know what I mean? Like,
There's nothing he can do. They're not.
So he
his
has to be
kids.
really careful of.
Which is why I'm telling him,
emotions.
You have to understand, this is a time-limited endeavor. The same way that Big Brothers and Big Sisters is a time-limited endeavor. They may very well have a connection that goes on forever. But dude, you're not married. You don't have kids of your own. Within the next 15 years, you're going to be in a very different place in your life.
Right.
Be a good uncle to these kids.
Okay.
Be a big brother. But don't get carried away and don't be under any delusion that this is going to be something you're signing on for the rest of your life. That you're going to get hurt from that. And you have to know, you will get attached. That's what kids do. They find a way to creep into your heart.
Thank you so much for the text. Don't know your name, but thank you very much. 514-800 if you have questions for Frank by text. And, of course, by phone, 514-790-0800. Kelly Alexander in for Dr. Laurie alongside relationship and dating coach Frank Kermit. Much more coming up on Passion on CJAD.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on Passion Trouble Tuesday. Frank Kermit, a relationship and dating coach, is with us tonight. He's also the relationship columnist for the Suburban Newspaper online magazine. His website, franktalks.com. Frank, we're going to get back to questions because we had more coming in by text at 514-800. And also the phone line's always open for you as well, 514-790-0800. But I did want to quickly mention you have a new book coming up, Conversations to Have on a First Date. Can you give us a brief overview and when it's coming down the pike?
The book should...
Oh, let's get your mic on here. Hold on. There we go.
Okay, the book is called 101 Plus Conversations for a First Date.
Okay.
It's really, what do you do? What do you say? Helping the tongue-tied move on and have a conversation on a first date. Because one of the biggest questions I get is, well, what do I say when I go out with somebody? What do we talk about? Well, there's a lot of things you can talk about. Look, it's a date. They've already agreed to go out with you.
Right.
If you said hello and you start a conversation and they're still sticking around, they want to hear from you. And maybe they're just as shy as you. So I go over 100 different topics that people can talk about on a first date. Some of them are very serious.
Yep.
Like parenting questions. If you see that this is going really well and you're thinking, look, we might have something really serious here, you might want to bring up a parenting question, a hypothetical. What would you do if you found out that your kid was being bullied at school? Find out how they would react to that type of situation, because it gives you an idea of what kind of parent they would be one day. And in some cases, it's something just very trivial, but it's not the information you're getting for the face value. It's the values behind it. such as, okay, well, what animal would symbolize you and why? So it's not the animal that they bring up, whether they talk about a lion or a fluffy bunny rabbit.
Right.
It's the why. I would be the fluffy bunny rabbit because I think of myself as a very sweet person, a very nice person, and I think bunnies are very sweet and nice. Okay, so the person believes that they're sweet and nice.
Okay.
That's something that's important to them.
Okay.
I would be a lion. Okay, why would you be a lion? Because I'm loud and the lions roar. Okay,
Right.
as opposed to what you might interpret. Well, the person thinks of themselves as a lion. They see themselves as a leader. If the person says, no, I'm a lion because I'm really loud and lions roar and I'm really loud. Okay, now you're kind of getting a feel for how they see themselves and what it is they value.
Right. Okay. That's important.
So it's not so much just what you say, but the values behind it and what you're going to draw from it. And I'm hoping that book is going to be out within the next couple of months.
Excellent. Okay. So now we're going to head back to, again, questions. It is Trouble Tuesday, 514-800 by text, 514-790-0800 on the phone. We have a text here for you, Frank. What do you think of telling a boyfriend that you were abused as a child? I was just wondering if it's advisable to tell my boyfriend of about 10 months.
Only 10 months. Only 10 months. Okay. Generally speaking, first thing we have to ask, is this information that you really want to make public? Not that there's anything wrong with what happened to you. You're not responsible for what happened to you.
Yeah.
You're not responsible for what someone else did to you. But depending on the environment you're in, okay, we need to be realistic here. We need to be calibrated. Any information that you tell a boyfriend or girlfriend has the potential to end up on Facebook, to end up within all of your social circles.
Right.
Are you ready for that kind of information to go public? Because it's not really a question of trust. Eventually, you start sharing information. The more people you share it with, the more public
It'll
it's
get
likely
around.
to become.
Okay.
So that's the first question. Are you okay with this information becoming public? Second question to ask, is it hindering you in some way?
Right.
Are you holding back in some area of the relationship because of this past abuse? And your boyfriend is starting to say, look, like, what's going on? Is it me? Is there something that I'm doing? And you're saying, no, it's not you. It's just, I for whatever reason, you're holding back. Maybe the abuse has made you more shy. Maybe the abuse, because again, we don't know what kind of abuse we're talking about here. It could be emotional abuse, mental abuse. Maybe she's just really shy. Okay, maybe she's not really comfortable in public settings and so on. And he wants to take her out places, and that's becoming a block. So that's the second thing. Is it hindering your relationship in some way, or is this more of, when I really feel comfortable enough with him, I want to share it? And the answer is, there are certain things you must share with someone you're dating, but there has to be a certain level of commitment present.
Okay.
Okay, look, when I do pre-marriage coaching with couples, there's a period where I say, look, are you going to get engaged here? There has to be a period of full disclosure.
Okay.
Think of every reason you have in your head that the other person would not want to be with you if they knew. And whatever that is, you start with the least intrusive, moving on to the most intrusive, and you start presenting it. And if the person can't handle whatever it is from your past, or the person just can't handle certain things that you think and so on, that's a sign you shouldn't be moving forward with the marriage.
Frank, what happens if, let's say you are getting engaged, and let's say you do have a past where you were abused, but let's say, like, for whatever reason, you have come to terms with it. Like, I don't really like using that phrase, but you've come to terms with it, and you don't want to bring it up. Do you have to, like, now that you're getting married to this person? Like, what happens if this never comes out ever, but maybe in 20 years it randomly comes out somehow, or some long lost cousin brings it up, somehow? Is that, a huge trust issue for your partner, that you never shared that with them, even though you just do not want to deal with it ever again?
It really depends on the context.
Okay.
So let me give you two examples where you see it will be complete opposite. If the person doing the abusing may have access to your future children, darn right, you better let your spouse know. Okay, whether it was emotional abuse, mental abuse, so on and so forth. If, let's say, mom emotionally abused you as a child, and yes, you've dealt with it and it's in the past and so on, you meet your partner, but you don't want to bring it up. Well, is mom, who has this history, going to babysit your kids?
Right.
Darn right, your spouse better know. Darn right, you better bring that up right from the get-go and say, this is what you got to know.
Okay.
If it's a matter of You went out one night and were assaulted by a stranger, and you've dealt with it and so on and so forth. Do you need to tell your spouse? It is always better to arm your spouse with information so that nobody can use that information to undermine your relationship.
Okay.
Like you said, the long lost cousin just happens to mention it.
Yeah.
Never underestimate the intention of other people to drive a wedge in your relationship just because they're miserable with their own lives.
Got it. Okay.
So it's better for your spouse to know, not because, well, I have to drudge it up, but be in that position so that when your spouse says, oh, yeah, well, I knew about that, but, I don't really want to hear it. I don't really want to talk about it. You should, in fact, go talk about it with the person in question here. Because at that point, is it necessarily a violation of trust? No. But nobody wants to feel like they don't have their partner's backs. So you want to arm your partner with as much information as necessary, just because nobody wants to, especially when we're dealing with, let's say, past lovers and the identity of past lovers. From what I see in my practice, sometimes the issue is, why didn't you tell me that you had a relationship with that person? That person attended our wedding. I didn't even know. It's 15 years later. I get it. It happened. It was a one-night thing, but I didn't know, and I found out, and I was made a fool of.
Right.
And you don't want to put your spouse in that position. That's why your best bet is to just have a full disclosure while you're engaged. And that's what the engagement process is for. You're getting engaged to say, we're getting all this out.
Yep.
If we still want to be married, now we've got a shot at having that solid foundation. This is one of the primary reasons people should marry their best friend. Because chances are their best friend already knows all this stuff.
Got it.
And if the best friend still wants to be with them after that, you have got a rock solid foundation that stands the best chances of surviving any crisis your marriage may go through.
Much more coming up on Trouble Tuesday with relationship and dating coach Frank Kermit. My name is Kelly Alexander, sitting in for Dr. Laurie, who will be back tomorrow night on Passion.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Passion tonight. Trouble Tuesday. Our guest tonight, Frank Kermit, a relationship and dating coach and relationship columnist for the Suburban Newspaper Online Magazine. And you can check out his personal website, franktalks.com. Frank, I wanted to get to another question, as it is Trouble Tuesday. You had a message come in from Mandy. My ex totally broke my heart last summer. He's coming back to town this summer. I'm not sure where he was out and about, but he's coming back. She says, I know that I should not want him, but I can't help myself. I really want him back. What should I do? Because Frank, that happens, right? Like where this whatever person just sticks with you, even if you've moved on in a way. Like, is something wrong with you if you look back a little bit? You know what I mean? Like, how do you deal with that?
Okay, first of all, you have to understand that how you feel is not the most important thing.
Okay.
That's the first thing you have to realize.
Okay.
You're going to be attracted to and have feelings for and get attached to people who are probably not in the best interest for you to do so.
Okay.
Okay? It's going to happen. You have to figure out, and the people who have a life plan do this so much better than those who don't.
Okay.
If you have a life plan and know what kind of life you want, what kind of lifestyle you want, where you want to live, how you want to live day to day, and you look for a partner to fulfill that first and foremost,
Yep.
That manages all of your attachment much easier. Many times we feel an attachment to somebody because of what we built up in our head.
Right.
Oh, I really like this person. And you start building up in your head this type of future that really doesn't exist. Now, if you can understand this next part, you can understand why people get attached to the wrong person.
Okay.
When we fantasize about a future with somebody, we're filling in gaps about what we don't know about that person.
True.
From our internal sources. And then the reality hits and we that's shattered. We have to mourn the future that we're never going to have with that person. Here's why we have to mourn it. Our conscious mind knows the difference between the reality of the date and the fantasy we have in our brain of what could have been.
Right.
Our unconscious mind, our subconscious mind, does not know the difference. According to our subconscious mind, everything we fantasize about has actually happened. That's why when something bad happens, we feel it's such a great betrayal and so hurtful. And we have to mourn that future that never happened, because to our subconscious, it existed as real as the real date that did happen.
Now, with this specific example, though, with Mandy, like, she already knows this dude broke her heart. She should, quote unquote, know better. You know what I mean? And then, like you mentioned, I think all of us have gone through this at some point.
Yeah.
Like we should quote unquote know better. So I'm not just singling out Mandy here, but how do you get rid of that like weird attachment to something you shouldn't be involved with again? You know what I mean?
Okay, it's not an easy process, not a pleasant process, but it is very doable.
Okay.
First of all, you have to remember, rule number one, it's not how you feel. It's the choices you make.
Got it.
So you can go ahead and be attached to this guy all you want. That's okay. That's human. That's normal. But just because you like him doesn't mean that you have to take him back or try again.
Okay.
Okay, and I get it. Okay, he broke your heart. So my question is, what happened that you got your heart broken? Did you have an unrealistic expectation? Did you just assume that after 3 dates, the two of you were a serious couple and he's just dating you casually? We don't know. Okay? But obviously, she had an expectation there that wasn't supported by reality. Does she even know how to test for a red flag? Mandy, work on yourself.
Okay.
Because right here, this is a repeating behavior pattern. If it wasn't this guy, it would be some other guy, and you would be repeating this behavior pattern again and again and again. Work on yourself, Mandy. Maybe you should come for some coaching. The idea here is that you have something to learn from this heartbreak. Now, in that time, it's been almost a year. Have you dated anybody else? Or have you said, no, I got hurt and I'm going to wait till I'm not hurt anymore before I date again? No, go out and date some more. Get some more experience. Find new connections. Try this. Date a really nice guy who treats you amazing so you can get used to being treated well in a relationship. Let that become your norm.
Okay. We have another message from Bobby. Actually, I think this is really interesting. My girlfriend of 6 months went through my phone without my permission. I'm already angry for him. She says she just wanted to make sure I wasn't hiding anything from her, but I still don't like it. Now I'm thinking of breaking up with her, but she says I'm overreacting. What should I do? I know, Frank, you're the expert, but I just want to put my 2 cents in here.
Go for it.
Leave this woman. Get out. Get out right now. Kelly Alexander says leave. If they can't trust you 6 months in, come on now. That's his recipe for disaster, but I'm going to defer to the expert.
The answer is yes, you should break up with her.
Yay, I'm vindicated.
Or at the very least, if you want to still have her as a friends with benefits while you seek out a more serious relationship, that's another possibility as well.
Okay.
The issue here is boundaries. Okay. And it is not an acceptable boundary for someone to go into your phone and check up just to make sure, regardless of what your behaviors may have been, because again, let's look at it from the other side here too. Was he behaving in a way that was causing her not to trust him? Could that be an element? Usually, and this is the irony of it, in most cases like this, the person who's snooping around accusing of the other of cheating has probably either thought about cheating themselves, is cheating themselves, especially when there is nothing to indicate it. But, you know, and we hear about this a lot in popular media. The one person who says, oh, this person cheated. Meanwhile, they're so suspicious because they regularly cheat and they just assume everybody else does too. Got it. Okay. So there's a lot more going on here than just her going through the phone. Bottom line is, you've only been together 6 months. Yeah. Going through somebody's phone for that reason, if you're doing that after 6 months, I mean, you know, you would have been better off saying, look, I'm having some doubts here, and this is why I'm having some doubts. And if you're having that many doubts, maybe you need to pull yourself away from dating that person and reevaluate your ability to judge characters.
Now, Frank, we're just about out of time, but I know you had a special message for one of your fans before we leave.
Yes. You know, one of the more privileged elements of being a coach is that sometimes I act like a big brother to people. And you know, I'm always giving encouragement and I'm forming connections, and I actually become friends with the people that I've coached in the past. Right. Sometimes, though, I'm on the receiving end of support, and I had a fan who, you know, she would read my articles in the paper and send me, you know, very supportive remarks. She would listen to the radio show. She was a fan of this show. She died very recently. One of the first experiences of going to a funeral of a fan. And I just wanted to make a mention of how much I so appreciated her. You know, it's great. I love my fan base, and when a fan can reach out to me regularly and just be that support and just be wonderful about it, I just wanted to say thank you, Caroline. Goodbye, Caroline, and I will miss you.
Thank you, Frank, for spending time with us on Trouble Tuesday, and I know you'll always be back with Dr. Laurie.
Always.
Excellent. That is Frank Kermit, again, a relationship and dating coach, and again, relationship columnist for the Suburban Newspaper Online Magazine, his website, franktalks.com. My name is Kelly Alexander. Thank you so much for joining us on Passion, Dr. Laurie. We'll be back tomorrow night. Have a great night. Up next, after the news, it's The Comedy Show with Joey Elias.
Listen to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD and CJAD.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Remember to sign up for the Alternative Relationship Choices ARC newsletter and get weekly tips to guide you through polyamory, swinging, and the basics of non-monogamy. We can help you find your ARC, your alternative relationship choice. Sign up at franktalks.com now.
LetYourSpiritGrow.com presents The Mystic Art of Reading Your Tarot Cards. Love, money, career, and travel. I'm Jade, a certified spiritual coach, ready to guide you in reading your tarot cards right now. Call Jade at 514-680-3278. That's 514-680-FAST. Fast. LetYourSpiritGrow.com. It's all you have to do.